My name is Thomas Trengove. I was born in Cornwall in 1560. I've lived in Plymouth most of my life. I have been a seafarer. I fought in a small ship in the Spanish Armada. I've been a soldier in the Low Countries, a tinner, and now I am, in a small way, part owner of a ship in Plymouth and occasionally trade with the ship, mostly to France, sometimes to the Low Countries. I have seen these ships often. I have never sailed on a ship that large myself, always on smaller ships, but there is not a lot of difference, simply that the larger ships have a bigger crew, maybe more discipline, more arms, but basically the life is a hard one. It is a life for young men and strong men. It is the case that in a normal voyage of any distance, many men will simply not return. Drake, a famous adventurer, a famous leader of men, a famous seaman. But what is forgotten is that he came back from his famous voyage with only a fraction of the men who left port. Food can be very short, water can be very short. Men suffer often within weeks of leaving shore from scurvy. Certainly in the hot climates, there are many diseases that can cast men down. For a strong man can be serving one day and he could be dead the next, certainly in the tropics. So your first thing is, if you survive the voyage, you are considered quite a lucky man. During the Armada, I was aboard the Hoy Madeleine of Plymouth, owned at the time by my father. We were sent out to gather supplies as the Armada and the English fleet bore up channel. We went into Weymouth Harbour for Sir Martin Frobisher to pick up supplies of round shot, which was sore depleted in the action so far, and carried them out to him just as he rounded Portland Bill. I know not what was happening, whether Frobisher attempted to lure the Spanish onto the deadly currents around the Bill, or whether he was merely surprised by the Spaniards' advance. But unfortunately the wind dropped and he was becalmed. The Spanish galleys started to close with him, and we were told off to help tow the ship, the Triumph, the big flagship of Sir Martin Frobisher, away from the danger zone, because we had sweeps on board. Extra men were put on the ship, and once we had fortunately managed to bring him out of the tide race, the wind picked up and we engaged one of the Spanish galleons, like this one. Despite only being a small ship, we were heavily armed for our size, and we shot numerous rounds into the Spaniards, although without very much obvious effect. Then the Spaniard, realizing what was happening, turned upon us and shot us through with a 40-pound stone shot, which pierced us on the port quarter, broke in two, took out our mizzen mast and pierced us near the waterline on the port quarter. In nearly sinking conditions, we were forced to break off the action and return to the Solent, where we ran aground on a mud bank because we were drawing so much water. That was the point where we were in real trouble, but fortunately we were towed off by a couple of friendly ships. But we then found ourselves in dire straits because we had no cargo, no money for repairs, and were forced to wait. But fortunately, Martin Frobisher recognised our actions and sent a purse of money ashore, which allowed us to repair the ship and to return to Plymouth. My most distinctive item worn by sailors is the thrum cap. It is a knitted woolen cap with threads built in, and then it is felted so that it is warm and waterproof, and the threads help to shed water, commonly worn by seamen, especially British seamen. I then wear a doublet of canvas. It's a simple garment, not modern or fashionable, just a workday garment, and a leather jerkin of dyed goatskin, which is an up-to-date and fashionable garment. The breeches are of madder dyed wool, the hose of leather, and the shoes, again, a fashion that was widely worn by the Elizabethans with the slashes and piercing, but continues in favour with seamen because all shoes on board will get wet, but these will dry out more quickly. I carry for everyday use a simple knife in a sheath, which is held on a leather thong, and for personal defence in times of trouble, I have my old-fashioned dagger, which I was bought by my father as a youth. It has had new sheath and a new hilt, but it is still my same old dagger.